It appears that Donald Trump is building momentum in the key swing state of Michigan. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back in with a new video, and today we have to talk about the 2024 presidential election because we have brand new polling that suggests that Donald Trump is building momentum in the key state of Michigan. Now, I do want to be clear that I am not saying that Donald Trump's going to win Michigan by 20 points. It's going to be a historical landslide. No, I'm not saying that one bit. But the polls in recent days out of Michigan shows Harris potentially has a massive problem in Michigan. You know, the one state that, of the three Rust Belt states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and of course Michigan, it leans the most to the left. Back in 2020, Biden won it by just under 3 points. People make it sound like he won it by 15 points. No, he barely won it by 3, which is to the left of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. But recent polls show Donald Trump's either slightly down in the state, or hell, slightly ahead in the state. In other words, as of now, despite the convention happening just a week ago, the state of Michigan is 50-50, which is several points worse than Biden's performance back in 2020. That's a fact. Back in 2020, Biden won Michigan by 3 points, which is to the left of Wisconsin, to the left of Pennsylvania. Hell, it's to the left of every swing state except like Nevada. Nevada went to Biden by just over 3 points. Outside of that, of all the swing states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona, Michigan leans to the left of all of them. So if the race is 50-50 in Michigan right now, Harris is in deep trouble. Because if she's barely winning Michigan, she's probably down in Wisconsin, down in Pennsylvania, probably losing Georgia and Arizona. And at that point, even if she wins Michigan and, let's say, Nevada, well, if Trump's winning Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia, just those 3 states alone give him the presidency, or even Pennsylvania, that gives him 291. And at that point, he doesn't even need a state like Georgia. He doesn't even need a state like Wisconsin. He just needs Georgia and Pennsylvania. So if he's up in, or barely down in Michigan, I just don't see how Trump loses, because at that point, he's probably doing good enough in, at the bare minimum, 3 of the other key swing states. See the problem here? So even if Harris wins Michigan by like a point, she's in trouble at that point, because Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Georgia, they probably had a similar shift to the right, which, if that did occur, just a 1 to 2 point shift, yeah, Harris might still be up in Michigan, but she's down in 3 swing states for sure, even possibly Arizona. That's the problem. Hell, there's a poll out today that has Trump up by 1. Epic MRA found Trump up by a point. This is post-convention. From a pollster that back in 2020 claimed that Trump was going to lose Michigan by 7 to 9 points. Their poll in September of 2020 was Biden plus 8. Their final was Biden plus 7. They were off by 4 to 5 points. And that's being generous. The same pollster is now showing Trump is slightly ahead post-convention. And they're not the only pollster. Fabrizio, and I know some people are going to say, oh God, it's Fabrizio. They're a Republican pollster, and this was pre-convention. I get that. But Fabrizio is usually correct. Now, is he perfect? No. And I know he's a Republican pollster, I get it, but they found Trump up by 2 points in Michigan, up by 1 in Pennsylvania, and for some reason down by 4 in Wisconsin. It could be sampling error, I get that. But even then, it's like, okay, if they're off by 3 points and Harris wins Michigan by 1, that's still 2 points worse than 2020. So what's the cause for celebration? There is none. And if they're off by 2, it's 50-50. Now, I know some people are going to say, but they're not the only polls to drop in Michigan. You have Emerson with Harris plus 3, Redfield with Harris plus 3, and even Bloomberg, they found Harris plus 3. Yes, that's true. That's 3 separate pollsters that found Harris plus 3 in the same time frame. I get it. So you could argue, well, maybe the Epic MRA poll is just wrong. Here's the problem with that thinking. All 3 of these polls, especially Redfield and Bloomberg, they overstated Biden's support in Michigan by a lot back in 2020. Let's just go back to 2020. Let's look up Morning Consult, I should say. Excuse me. Oh, yeah. The final poll was Biden +7 in Michigan. They had him winning by 7 to 10 points in the last couple of months. Yeah. They were off by 5 to 8 points. That's Morning Consult. And Redfield, they're even worse. Their final was Biden +13. Their closest poll was Biden +8. So their polling overstated Biden by 11 points. And post-convention back in 2020, it was like Biden +12. So them having Harris up by only 3 is not this huge margin for Harris. In fact, that's not good for her. If you're a Democrat, especially Kamala Harris, you don't want to be up by just 3 in the polling. You don't. Because, historically speaking, if the same polling miss occurs that occurred back in 2020, occurred back in 2016, Trump's up in Michigan by like 2 to 3 points. That's the problem here. Even Emerson, which I consider to be a good pollster, they were off in 2020. They were off by around 4 to 9 points. Now, you could argue, well, maybe they changed and they got better. I get that argument for some of the pollsters. They maybe changed. I get that. But these same polls that have Harris with a very small lead, I mean, these are small leads. These are all within the margin of error. They're effectively ties, like the Epic poll is, just like Fabrizio is. They had the race 50-50 in the one state that she cannot afford to be 50-50 in. Because if she's struggling there, what do you think's happening in Wisconsin or Pennsylvania? And if she just outright loses in Michigan, at that point, how does she win? If you're a Democrat, especially Kamala Harris, if you lose Michigan, you're done. Because at that point, you're probably winning Wisconsin, you're winning Pennsylvania, and at that point, you're just winning Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. Let's not kid ourselves. If you're winning Michigan as a Republican, you're winning everything else. See the problem? That's why Harris cannot afford to lose Michigan, because that would translate to big victories in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, maybe even in Georgia. I'm not going to say if Michigan goes to Trump, he's going to win by 15 points, but if he's doing good enough in Michigan, is it crazy to say he's probably up everywhere else? And I get it, there are some demographics in Michigan that could swing Republican that may not translate to Wisconsin or even Pennsylvania. I get that. But is it that likely that you see a huge shift in Michigan, but you see nothing in Wisconsin? Especially in a presidential race? I doubt that. If Michigan swings to the right, even if Wisconsin doesn't shift that far right, I highly doubt it's going to shift a point Democrat. All it needs to do is shift 1 point Republican, and Trump wins Wisconsin. Same thing in Pennsylvania. It's like 1.5 points, and he's got it. That's what he needs to do. So if he's doing 3 to 4 points better in Michigan, well, he's probably winning the other states. And for those that still don't believe that, well, the polling could be spot on and Harris has a small lead there, let's go back to 2016, okay? For the entirety of the summer, Clinton was up by 8 points, 8 to 10 points. And even in October, she was up by 12. At the very last second, the polls herded and they found her up by 3.5. They were off by 4 points. 2020, okay, the final top line wasn't as bad. They had it, Biden +4. It ended up being Biden +3. But yet again, if it wasn't for Trafalgar and an insider advantage, having Trump +2 and Biden +2, it would have been Biden +7, Biden +8. And yet again, for the entirety of the summer, before August, he was up by 7 to 8 points. As late as October, he was up by 9. So Harris being up by only 2 right now on the RCP average is not this huge lead that some people claim it is. It's not. And you can even look at the polls. You notice something very odd about every poll, or basically every poll? Harris is not at 50. She is below 50 in every poll but 2. She is consistently at 48, 49, maybe she cracks 50%. Problem is, she's not cracking 50%. Right now, she's at 48.5%. At least back in 2020, Biden was at 50 in the RCP average. He was. In 2016, they actually nailed Clinton's vote share, just like 2020. So if Harris is below 50 and let's say the same error occurs, that's a Trump win. That's a Trump victory in Michigan. And at that point, he's got the presidency. I don't see how you lose Michigan as a Democrat and pull it off. Maybe you can pull it off through Georgia and then, you win Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, and you win Pennsylvania. I guess there's that route, but it's so unlikely that I just don't see it happening. I really don't. Now, I'm not saying Trump's going to win Michigan by 15 points or anything crazy like that, but right now, these polls indicate a 50-50 race. And that's not what Democrats want. They want to be up, especially post-convention, by 10 points. They want to be up by 10 points. Maybe you could get away with being up by 5 to 6, maybe 7 on the lower end, but you don't want to be up by only 3. Hell, some polls have you down by a couple points. You don't want that as a Democrat. You want to be up by several points because you don't want the same margin of error occurring, and you lose. That's what they don't want to happen. But it seems like right now, if the polling's correct, Harris has a small lead in Michigan, but it's not a huge one. And if she is still up by only like 1 point come November, she is in deep shit. If this trend continues where she's only up by at most 2 to 3 points in a state that usually understates Republicans by, or Trump at least, by 5 to 6, maybe at some points it was like 10 points it was off by in 2020, you're done. You're not going to win. If the same miss occurs, you're going to lose. Now, I know some people might say the polling could be accurate. I get that, but do you really think Bloomberg, which, by the way, their polling's all over the place. What is this? They have trends of North Carolina going to Harris now. They have Pennsylvania surging for Harris, but Michigan collapsed for her. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. It's all over the place. Does this look like a pollster that fixed their shit? I don't think so. I think this is the same trash that we saw back in 2020, but it's closer. And that makes people think, oh, maybe the polling's correct now because outside of Wisconsin, none of these margins seem that crazy. It's 2 points in North Carolina, which is crazy, but fine, whatever. It's nothing like Biden plus 20 or Harris plus 20. It's Harris plus 3. But this poll screams of same shit, different year. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.